You're listening to Science for Soundness, the podcast. This is not your usual podcast. This is a journey, and as with any journey, I don't know yet where this one is going. If anything, I'm hoping to inspire you to take the first step, even if it's into the unknown, even if you don't know where you're going and you do it scared. Hi, I'm Steffi. I'm an equine scientist and equine therapist. I've made it my mission to support horse owners on their individual journey of horse-human connection and personal growth. I want you to know that I'm with you on this one. Think of me as a friendly voice, a reminder to stay the course, to keep going, keep listening to yourself and to your horse, even when the going gets tough. Let's do this. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about something that probably isn't that talked about. Today we're going to talk about something that's been weighing heavily on my mind for a long time because I keep receiving these messages that really make me think about the paradigm that we're living in with our horses, that we move in and interact in. And today's episode is dedicated to that because the problem isn't your horse, the problem is the paradigm. So let's dive on in. There is this blind spot at the very center of modern horsemanship. It's a blind spot that is so normalized, so embedded in tradition that most people don't even realize they're operating inside of it. But you feel it, and your horse feels it. And week after week, I get messages in my inbox from people who feel it too. Different horses, different stories, different histories of the horses and people, different training journeys, sure, but the struggle is always the same. It's a sort of, I've tried everything and still something feels wrong. I don't know about you guys, but I hear that a lot, and maybe you felt like that too. The messages always circle around the same sort of themes. It's either my horse becomes activated around food, or my horse braces with pressure, my horse shuts down when we start working or when I put the tack on, I feel lost between positive and negative reinforcement, nothing seems to work, what am I missing? And here's the truth most people never hear, you're not missing anything. The horse isn't missing anything. The method isn't the problem, it's the paradigm. It's the entire framework we inherited around how horses learn, how behavior works, how connection is created, in air quotes, and what safety actually means. So today I want to name this blind spot. I want to talk about it because once you see it, I guarantee, once you understand this deeper truth underneath your horse's behavior, everything else will shift. You cannot unsee afterwards. Not because the horse will then change, but because the lens you're looking through does. So let's just talk honestly. Most people enter the horse world through instruction, not intuition. I don't know about you, but when I first started taking riding seriously, I was handed a pony and I was handed a whip, and I was told that if this pony stops, I should use the whip and crack it on his butt so that it will move forward again. And honestly, as a 10 or 11-year-old child, you kind of look up to the adults and you think they know better. You don't question. But it didn't land right with me. It didn't feel right. I knew that wasn't the right way to go. And I'm really grateful that I've always had this questioning mindset and always sought more from this work with horses, because in those lessons, in those interactions, we're often taught from the very beginning how to cue, how to correct even, again, air quotes, how to position a horse, how to release or reward, how to seek the, air quote, right response. There's a lot of air quoting going on. But we learn a sort of sequence first, a technique or a method first. And without ever saying it out loud, the industry therefore teaches this one foundational belief, and that is, if you get the method right, you will get the horse right. And this is where the blind spot begins, my friends. Because a method, yeah, It can create movement, but it cannot create connection with your horse. A method can shape behavior, of course, but it cannot shape safety for them, at least not a felt sense of that safety. And a method can ask for obedience and probably will achieve it, but a method cannot generate trust. And yet the entire paradigm of modern horsemanship is built on this idea that behavior is the goal and technique is the way to get there. So if the method doesn't work, we're then told to adjust our timing or to change our tools, use different equipment, use harsher equipment maybe. We've all seen what happens when people start using harsher equipment to get a certain behavior from their horses without understanding what actually happens underneath. We're told to switch philosophies, follow a different person, a guru, whatever, or we're simply told to be more consistent. Again, air quotes, because what does that even mean in this sort of context? But here's the truth that breaks this entire logic open, and that is methods don't work on dysregulated horses or dysregulated nervous systems for that matter, not for horses nor for humans. You cannot cue a horse into calmness. You cannot pressure a horse into connection. You cannot reward a horse out of overwhelm. You might get behavioral changes, they might adapt their behavior, but what they feel underneath what they're showing you may tell a whole different story. And yet the industry keeps trying, keeps teaching, keeps believing that behavior is the window into the horse instead of the byproduct of the horse's internal state. This is the blind spot, my friends. It's not you, not your horse, not your timing even, it's the paradigm. So let's look beneath the behavior for a moment. It's important, of course, behavior is important, but let's look beneath it. Not the spooking, bracing, freezing, not the food obsession or food aversion, not the refusal, not the shutting down or the high alert. Beneath all of that is a nervous system communicating one thing, and that is my internal world is louder than the external request or question. That's it. It's not defiance. No need to crack a whip on a horse's butt. It's not disrespect. It's not lack of training or unwillingness on the horse's part. It's not even your failure. It is simply a state. And when a horse is in a stressed, overwhelmed, confused, or even uncertain state, connection becomes unavailable, neurologically unavailable. Not because the horse doesn't want connection, but because connection is a regulated state, a relational state, a state of openness and curiosity and presence in the environment that we're in the social context we're in. But you cannot reach that state when the nervous system is managing survival, when there's constantly an alarm going on, basically. And yet, the paradigm keeps telling people to train through it, work over it, fix the behavior, adjust the method, to keep going until they get it, as if they would. And this is what creates more tension, more confusion, and more conflict, and even more guilt in the people trying to override a system that's already fried, basically. Because you can't train your way into safety. You have to create it. One thing's for sure, the horse world loves categories. It's either positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. It's pressure-based, reward-based, food or no food, classical, liberty, Western, dressage or not, whatever. Pick a camp, pick a side, pick a language, basically. But here's the truth no one really says, and that is both positive and negative reinforcement collapse when the nervous system is overwhelmed. You cannot reward a horse into regulation, and you cannot pressure a horse into trust. So if a horse becomes activated when food enters the picture, it's not because food is wrong. It's because the horse's internal state makes that food unsafe. If a horse panics with pressure, it's not because pressure is wrong. It's because the horse's internal state makes pressure overwhelming in that moment. The method is not the problem. The tool isn't the problem even. It's the state that is the missing layer. And people write to me often saying, I don't want to use negative reinforcement, but positive reinforcement isn't working. And what they're really saying is, the paradigm is failing me. I can't find myself inside these categories, those boxes, those camps that people want me to be in. My horse and I don't fit in those boxes the industry has given us. And it's exactly that, because you're not meant to. Connection isn't a box to fit in. Connection is a state. I didn't come to this clarity through textbooks or certifications. Not even my degrees helped me with this. You'd be surprised what is taught still. I came to it through horses, through my own horses, through Sun, through Bee, through the horses I was able to work with, through the horses that I was treating as an ESMT. And every single breakthrough that I've had in my work came from not mastering a technique, but from noticing the moment a horse withdrew, or the moment something subtle shifted in them, in their body, the moment the horse basically said to me, you're not meeting me, you are managing me. And that distinction changed everything, especially with Bee, because I realized that I could perform perfect technique from a dysregulated state myself, and then my horse would feel pressured no matter how soft I thought I was being with her. And I could do absolutely nothing technical, stand quietly beside Bee in that moment with clarity and presence, and she would melt into safety in that moment. It was the most beautiful thing, and it really got me thinking. And that's when I understood that connection is not created externally, it emerges internally, in both of us actually. It's the moment this paradigm fell apart for me in that field in the middle of Cambridge, because once you see that the horse responds to states, not methods, you cannot go back to thinking training creates relationship. Yes, it's part of it, and it also helps to express relationship, but it doesn't define it. You could have the most well-trained horse in the world, yet they could be so disconnected from themselves and from you, you wouldn't believe it. So let me tell you something the industry rarely asks. How does your horse feel before you ask for anything? How do you feel before you ask for anything? Because the real foundation of connection is state, regulation, clarity, predictability, and also relational safety, not obedience, correctness, lightness even, or precision the way we've learned it, or behavior. We've spent decades measuring the wrong thing, if you ask me. We've measured movement, but not meaning. We've measured response, but not the readiness towards that request. We've measured behavior, but not their internal world. And yes, I get that that is very difficult, but it's so necessary because that internal world is the entire story. So you may wonder, what do horses even need before training can begin? I'm asking all these deep questions. Surely I must have some sort of deep answers. Often I do, often I don't. But in this case, I feel like this is where the paradigm shift becomes practical. Before you think about the method, before you think about reward or pressure, before you think about cues or sequences of your training, your horse needs predictability from you. Not control, but clarity, actual factual clarity. I have seen so many times how horses get confused because their humans aren't predictable in very simple situations. Just think about it. If you change your mind on a daily basis or even an hourly or contextual basis, if your yes is going to be a yes or your no is going to be a no, how is your horse going to be able to tell that they can rely on the fact that they get the same sort of reply from you? It's really difficult. So predictability really is necessary. They need emotional space. They don't need just demands from you, but they need space also to express and to feel all them feels, basically, without consequences, without negative consequences, for sure. They also need attuned presence. They need you to be with them, be present with them, and not to manage them constantly and trying to push them into a certain outline or behavior or anything like that. They need choice, meaning they need the ability to say yes on their terms, but also the ability to say no. And if you feel really icky about the no part, about this autonomy part, then maybe you can see the no as a not yet, because the horse might need more information in order to make that choice for a yes. So they need that choice, and anything you can do to give them choices, I guarantee will make them happier for it. They also need time, because connection opens up slowly between two individuals. They need internal coherence, meaning your clarity matters more than your technique. Work with them, interact with them from integrity. They also need regulated energy, meaning you set the tone for them. If you're dysregulated, if you are out of your mind with anger, frustration, disappointment, or anything that makes you feel less than, your nervous system is going to mirror that for them and set the tone for the horse. And they also need listening before asking. Always, you guys, always listen before you ask anything. These are literal universal needs, I think, across breeds. This even applies to humans. It's across disciplines, histories, training philosophies. It doesn't even matter. These are universal. We all need that. And yet, these needs are rarely spoken about and rarely taught and rarely even acknowledged, if you ask me. Not because the industry doesn't care. I believe there are lots of people out there who do care, but who might not have the words for it yet. But I do believe that the industry never really learned to see beneath the behavior, or maybe doesn't want to. I don't know. We'll leave that question open. But here's the paradigm shift I want to offer today. Connection is not a method. Connection is a state. And states cannot be cued, pressured, or rewarded into existence. They must be created. So when you shift from how do I get behavior X, Y, or Z to how do I create the conditions for connection? What does my horse need right now? The whole world reorganizes. I promise you. Your horse will soften. You will soften. All of a sudden, there is so much less tension because you allow things to unfold naturally the way they want to, not because you're forcing them into existence. Communication becomes clearer. Training becomes easier. Curiosity returns, which is massive. We want that in our horses, but also in ourselves, because that is such an indication of how safe we really feel. Partnerships stop being something you work for and become something that you meet, that you create together. And this is how horsemanship really changes, not by swapping method A for method B, or choosing side A now and, before you were at side B. And it's also not by refining your timing, guys, but by redefining the foundation that you're working with, the actual ground floor that you're building your entire relationship on. So if you're listening to this and you felt that something in the horse world doesn't quite align with your intuition, I'm a very intuitive person. I work very intuitively with horses, which often makes it difficult to say, do these 5 steps, because that's not how it works in my world and my understanding. And hopefully now you understand why. So if you've also felt the pressure to pick a method, to pick a side, pick a camp, pick a technique, if you've tried everything and still feel something is missing for you, for your horse, then please hear me. There is nothing wrong with you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your horse. You are simply stepping outside of an outdated paradigm and into a deeper truth, which is methods influence behavior. states shape relationship, and the connection is the real foundation of horsemanship. Once you see this, you don't go back, I guarantee. And it might be a rocky road, it might be a challenging path, but you begin to listen differently, to observe differently, to even show up differently, and your horse will absolutely feel that difference. Friends, thank you for questioning the paradigm alongside me. Thank you for choosing the deeper work. I know it's not always easy to live into the unknown with your horse, to not always have the answers, to not have a very clear path in front of you. Still, I want to say thank you, truly, for being part of this movement, which I believe is reshaping the future of the equine world. And that's huge if you ask me. Until next time. Hi friend, I hope you found something in this episode that resonated with you. I'm beyond grateful that you hung out with me today for a little while, and I do hope that you come along for the ride. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and if you feel like it, leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions or would like me to talk about a certain topic, check the show notes for ways to get in touch. I can't wait for next time. You got this.